We're always looking for opportunities out there. Again, because we're well connected in northern New Brunswick, prospectors come to us, or developers or small companies come to us and say, hey, I have this really interesting project. So if we see a future for Puma or a way for investors to benefit from it, we usually go for it and try to figure out how we can benefit, not just for the company, but for investors as well.
Hello and welcome to the Assay TV. Today I am very happy to be here at One-to-One Mining Investment London with Mia Boiridy, Head of Investor Relations and Director at Puma Exploration. So Mia, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And so maybe we could just kick off with a bit of an introduction to Puma Exploration and some of your flagship projects.
Yeah, absolutely. So Puma Exploration is a Canadian exploration company based out of Rimouski, Quebec, with projects in northern New Brunswick, Atlantic Canada. So our flagship projects are the Williams Brook Gold Project and the McKenzie Gold Project. Williams Brook was optioned to Kinross Gold last year, so we just celebrated 1 year of that option agreement, which is great. And McKenzie is fully owned by Puma.
Okay, excellent. And so, as you mentioned, you have this partnership with Kinross Gold, which is a major milestone for the company. You know, can you talk about maybe how this supports Puma's long-term growth strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to get third-party kind of anointment of your project. So that's been great to have them involved. And certainly having the option agreement means that they're funding 100% of the exploration over presumably the next 5 years. So the option agreement is that Kinross gets 65% of the project if they spend $16.75 million Canadian over the next 5 years. So of course, they can accelerate that, and then it would probably go into a JV. What the benefit is for us is that we get access to some of their experts, right? So we get to talk to their geologists. We have a joint technical committee that does a lot of talking together and figuring out how we're going to go about doing our exploration, moving the project forward. And we have access to some of their experts. So, which is great for us being a junior exploration company, where sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to get that kind of insight, especially when it comes to a major company, because then you're more attuned to what they're looking for in terms of a project.
Okay, very interesting. And so looking at kind of more details of your project, so you've got the Lynx Gold Zone, and that's shown some really promising results lately. Can you talk about some of the latest kind of geological insights, you know, and how did these shape your exploration model moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Williams Brook Project holds that Lynx Gold Zone, and that's where we've done most of our exploration work to date. That's the only place where we've done some drilling. So prior to Kinross coming in, we had done about 17,000 meters of drilling there. And we have a very low cost kind of exploration method whereby we do a lot, because there's not a lot of overburden in New Brunswick. It's really gravel. You can move it out of the way with bulldozers. And then these quartz veins that carry the gold in our project are visible at surface. So we're able to do a lot of grab sampling before we actually do any kind of drilling. So we know that we're dealing with a large system, and this is an orogenic gold system that are typically quite large and that are kind of structurally controlled by these major faults that are regional faults and also subsidiary faults. So it's been really good as well to get the input from Kinross in terms of understanding where these faults are and understanding how they control mineralization and where we need to look to do some drilling and get the best kind of return on investment on our drilling and make sure that we're hitting the mineralization that we want to hit. So it's been great in terms of we move forward, we are developing our model as well, and every kind of surface exploration or drilling program is really helping in that regard.
Okay, excellent. And so can you talk a little bit about the 2025 drill program? You know, what were some kind of clear findings that came out of this?
So we drilled 3,600 meters with Kinross this past summer, and we did a lot of surface exploration work as well. So we don't have the assay results yet from that exploration program because all the labs are backed up in Canada right now. But what Kinross wanted to do was really test the contact of where the mineralization is found at the Lynx Gold Zone. And the 15 holes that were drilled hit that contact, which is great. And we weren't necessarily trying to target high-grade mineralization, but 6 out of the 15 holes came back with visible gold. And we hit visible gold at the deepest level we've ever hit so far at 355 meters down a hole dip, which is great for us because it means that it's extended our mineralized zone about 50 meters along strike. So now we have about 800 meters of mineralization. It goes down to a depth of about 300 meters and a width of about 100 meters as well. So we're excited to see what the drilling results will come back. Of course, there were some over limits because we have that visible gold. So we're waiting for those. We greatly anticipate getting those does and how exciting that will be. And also we did some channeling as well because we do a lot of grab sampling, but of course it's not necessarily representative because it's really, you're kind of selecting where you're grab sampling. So channel samples that were done as well on these major quartz vein in the Lynx Gold Zone have come back with mineralization that is representative of what we find when we drill. So great correlation between channel sampling and our model. So everything is moving along kind of greatly. And then we did some surface work as well in 10 kilometers away from the Lynx Gold Zone. Great channel samples there as well, or trench samples, rather, grab samples still there. So that's probably going to be the next area that we'll decide to go and drill. And part of the project as well is the John Paul property, which is about 10 kilometers away as well from the Williams Brook project and property itself. And great also grab sampling and surface work there. Interestingly there, the mineralization has some copper in it as well, which is something that you don't see at the Lynx Gold Zone. So we're looking forward to seeing what drilling will give us in that area as well.
Yeah, it sounds quite exciting.
It is.
And so you've recently expanded your land holdings with the McKenzie Gold Project, and you've completed a summer exploration program there as well. So can you talk about a little bit about kind of the strategy for exploration at this project?
So McKenzie is ours. So we wanted to make sure right after we signed the deal with Kinross, we announced that we had accumulated this big land package, which is 35,000 hectares as well, which is only 10 kilometers away from Williams Brook, that shows the same mineralogy. So it has the same quartz veins that are gold bearing, super high grade as well, orogenic system as well. And so we're developing it the same way we developed Williams Brook. We kind of set up our, I think, playbook with Williams Brook, and we're kind of doing the same thing with McKenzie. So we start with surface exploration, where again, we do a lot of grab sampling, and some grab samples return 600 grams per ton gold at McKenzie. So now this week we start drilling. So again, really excited to start with an inaugural drilling program. So 2,500 meters. And then based on those results, we'll see what kind of intercepts we get. And then if it's positive, which we think it will be, then it'll spur on maybe a larger drilling program as well. So we're kind of following the same kind of method, exploration methodology that we had developed at Lynx, because we know that we're dealing with the same type of geology and system there as well.
Okay, excellent. And talking about kind of your methodology and your strategy, you have this DEER strategy, which is discovery, exploration, acquisition, royalties, and that's been kind of a cornerstone of the corporate strategy for Puma. Can you talk about kind of how this works and supports your exploration endeavors?
Well, we do things a little bit differently. I think we're an exploration company, and yes, we're focused on Williams Brook and McKenzie, which are gold projects. But Puma has been in northern New Brunswick for 20 years. And initially, we were a base metal company. And so when we made the discovery at Williams Brook, and when a prospector came to us and said, I have this grab sample that returned 50 grams per ton gold. Do you want to have a look? We said, of course, we want to have a look. And then we decided, well, maybe we should become gold explorers. And that kind of started everything with Williams Brook. But we had all of these base metal properties. And we knew that they had huge potential, but we knew that we couldn't kind of split ourselves between being a base metal explorer and a gold explorer. So we figured, okay, what can we do with all of these different assets? So we decided to spin off our copper assets into a new company called Canadian Copper, which is led by a different, president CEO, Simon Quick, who's doing very, very well and who's developing now the Murray Brook deposit and is about to buy the Murray Brook operational complex as well that was put in care and maintenance by the government. So that way, we have an equity position. When they got listed on the CSC, we put in, because it was our projects, part of the deal was we got an equity position in CCI. So that can bring cash into the coffers of Puma. And then our investors got shares of CCI, which is great because then it gives you exposure to something else than just gold. So for example, for all the shares that I had of Puma, I got some shares of CCI, a certain proportion. And CCI right now is trading at 30 cents, right? So it's a great win-win. So we're doing the same thing right now. We have another project called Legacy, and it's under the umbrella of one of our subsidiaries called Murray Brook Minerals. The thought is that we're going to do exactly the same thing with that. That has a resource with a copper-silver resource. We're going to spin it out into a separate company as well. And by the same token, kind of have some benefit for our shareholders and for the company. So we're always looking for opportunities out there. Again, because we're well collected in northern New Brunswick, prospectors come to us, or developers or small companies come to us and say, hey, I have this really interesting project. So if we see a future for Puma or a way for investors to benefit from it, we usually go for it and try to figure out how we can benefit. Not just for the company, but for investors as well.
Okay, excellent. And it's certainly a good time to be in both gold and copper.
Correct. So we're trying to, we kind of minimize the risk and give a lot of upside potential for everybody.
Absolutely. And so just, looking forward into 2026, what are some of the key milestones that we should be on the lookout for from the company?
Well, we're going to continue on developing Williams Brook, of course, with Kinross. Now in year 2, so we were the operator of the project in the first year. Now that Kinross has committed for year 2, and it's a minimum going to be a $3 million project, exploration project, but they want to be the operator. So that's good as well. And it's a good sign, right? That they really put some value in this project and want to make sure that it kind of follows in the development, follows their protocol so they don't have to go back, which is great for us. So that's going to kind of have a life of its own. Of course, we're still going to be involved in terms of the joint technical committee that will decide how it gets developed, but that kind of has it's financed, and we know that it's going to continue on and have its own life. And then we're going to focus really on McKenzie. So hoping to get those drill results come back in the new year from this inaugural kind of drilling program. And then we'll see. Hopefully it'll get the market excited about the potential there. And certainly we know that we have something that is just as good, if not better, that Lynx. So I think it's going to be full steam ahead in terms of moving that. Also probably listing that company that the Legacy project is going to come under. So there's going to be lots of news throughout 2026.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. We'll definitely have to catch up again. But Mia, those were all the questions I had for you today. So I want to thank you for joining us here today.
Well, thank you so much, Amy.